So CDC and other entities have done a pretty good job of refocusing the public's attention on antimicrobial resistance. The report that came out in 2013 outlining the threats that antimicrobial resistance poses in the United States really was seminal. If nothing else, it gave us nice graphics to put into our slides and numbers, conservative numbers, for the number of resistant infections and death due to resistance that were at least agreed upon, even if they were conservative. That focus got lost a little bit after that due to viral outbreaks and other things that occurred in the following years, and then they just updated it again this year. So I think there's been a good focus on the issue of resistance, and there also was after many years of a real deficit in antimicrobial drug development, all of a sudden there was this big boom in the past 10 years in response to a couple things. IDSA, I think, deserves some credit for their 10 by 20 initiative, which I have to say, to my absolute amazement, has been successful. However, it's been successful in developing drugs that in many cases aren't doing well. And some of these drugs, I think we could debate the necessity for them in the first place. And other ones, there really is a true medical need, and yet those companies are struggling. So I think the area that deserves more focus is that while these push incentives that were developed in order to get these drugs developed, and were successful in doing so through government grants and other forms of stimulating drug development, led to drugs being approved that then are failing on the market, as we first saw with Contagion becoming bankrupt this year. So whether that was the beginning of a trend or just a blip, I'm a little concerned it's the beginning of a trend. And when you think about it, that was a drug that cost, the drug being plazomicin they developed, that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to develop, and then the company up and goes bankrupt, and some of those dollars are tax dollars. So we have a vested interest in the success of these as well, when there's a true medical need. So while we've done pretty well at focusing the need for these drugs to be developed, we have not done well at developing pull incentives for them to be used. And I don't mean used for everyone, I mean used in the correct settings. So the patient with a resistant infection should be the most obvious place that you're going to use a drug for a resistant infection, even if that drug is expensive, as they typically are, because they will never be inexpensive, as long as it costs all this money for them to be developed. But not just that, but the patient who's at risk for a highly resistant infection, right now there's a huge economic disincentive to use any of these expensive agents in that patient. And that's something that we'll have to figure out.